All right, old school NBA fans, self-researched NBA facts. I got another video here for you. Continuing on with my top 10. I know a lot of people, oh, how can this guy be over that guy, whatever. I used the criteria, I stuck with it. I took my emotions and I took my favoritisms and biases out of it, okay? This is who I legitimately think, in order, should be ranked, based on everything that I've seen. I'm not going by any one thing. I'm not ring counting like Chris Broussard, or he says how it affects winning, you know, not taking into account the competition, not taking into account the teammates, not taking into account what they've done in every regard you can think of. You need to factor everything in, not just one thing. You know, like I've heard Chris Broussard say, well, Bill Russell dominated in winning, but not necessarily statistics. Wilt Chamberlain dominated in statistics, but not necessarily winning. Well, it's not that simple, and we all know it. You know, there's guys that, you know, did a little bit of both, but underwhelmed. And other guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who I always had, you know, between the 5, 6, 7 range easily. He just didn't make it, you know. I mean, he lost to some teams he probably shouldn't have lost to. That 39-43 Seattle team, that definitely hurt him. Losing to an under 500 team, that was harmful to him. You know, he just he didn't have much for teammates or whatever. He should have won more defensive players of the year. He should have had more all defensive teams. A lot of that has to do with your team's record. But it is what it is. Olajuwon was number 8, and Duncan was number 9, and Shaq is number 10, and I feel fine with that. Anyway, it is what it is. Like I said, for me, Olajuwon was, you know, pretty much one of my favorite players, absolutely. And one of the guys in here was my favorite guy growing up, and it pains me where he is, but it is what it is. Number 7 on my list is Wilt Chamberlain. Now, Wilt Chamberlain, the number one thing on, you know, that I take that has the most power is how many championships did you win when you had a legitimate shot at doing it, whether you reached the finals or you were the number 1 seed. You know, and some people say, oh, just because they were number 1 seed didn't mean they were the best team. Well, what else are you going to go by? It'll take 5 years to go through every single year of every single team to see where each team was. No, you can't do it like that. That's just stupid. You're the number 1 seed. You should win your conference if you're an all-time great. Period. That's just how it should go. You got home court advantage. When it comes down to it, Game 7 is in your building. You got to win that game, or it will be held against you. No matter who it is, no matter if I like the player, don't like the player, you know, pay the player no mind. Doesn't matter. It's all going to get factored in. So Wilt Chamberlain won 2 of 7 legitimate chances at a championship. He had shots in 64, 66, 67, 68, 69, 72, and 73. 7 shots. He won 2. Now, he lost to Boston a lot. I know. Boston, you know, was the better team in 1960, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. Those 6 years, definitely Boston was the better team. But 4 years, Wilt had the better team. And he didn't win. And I already hear the people saying, well, in 68, Billy Cunningham got hurt, blah, blah, blah. They were up 3-1 in 68 and lost. Now, anyway, Wilt Chamberlain won 4 MVPs. 10 times he was in the top 5. He won the Finals MVP in 72. He was 2-time all-defense first team. I think that was in 72 and 73, actually. He won 7 scoring titles, 11 rebound titles, 1 assist title, even though to me it's not. I don't care what the league was doing. He was not the leader in assists per game. That was Oscar Robertson. But whatever. Wilt is 2nd all-time in points per game and 1st in rebounds per game. He edges out Russell at 22.9, and Russell had 22.5. Very close. Now, Wilt had some good teammates, regardless of what people say about, oh, Russell had all these Hall of Famers, and I did a video on that before, and I'm going to expand on it in the future, that a lot of these Hall of Famers contributed very little, or they were like in Casey Jones' case. He won some championships in college. I'm thinking they're combining that with the pro to get him in the Hall of Fame. Never made an all-star team, never averaged 10 points a game. I know he was a good defensive player, but come on, no way is Casey Jones a Hall of Famer. He definitely gravy trained and coattailed, being on Boston. Now, when Wilt came in the league in 1960, he had a guy named Guy Rogers who was in his second season. He played with him for 5 years. Guy Rogers in the Hall of Fame. He's a 4-time All-Star, 2 assist titles. 1960 to 1963, Tom Gola, 5-time All-Star, 2-time second-team All-NBA, won the championship in 56. He was, like the second best player. The best player on that 56 championship Warriors team was Paul Arizin, who Wilt got to play with from 1960 to 1962. Arizin, a top 75 player, was a 10-time All-Star. Rookie of the Year in 51. He beat out Bob Cousy, Bill Sharman, and another guy named Larry Faust, who I find interesting, is an 8-time All-Star, but is not in the Hall of Fame. I find that crazy. Paul Arizin was 3-time first-team All-NBA, twice second-team All-NBA, 3 times top 5 in MVP. 1956 won the championship as the best player. He averaged 27.6 points per game in the 56 finals. The next best player was 13.8, literally half. So Paul Arizin would have had a finals MVP if such a thing existed in 1956. So he's already got 2 Hall of Famers and a top 75 player who would, finals MVP type guy on his roster. Now, when Paul Arizin retired after the 62 season, they went from 49-31 to 31-49. They still had Gola. They still had Guy Rogers. Paul Arizin, like I said, he made a big impact. In 64, Nate Thurmond was on the Warriors. He was a rookie. He's a top 75 player, but he was young. This isn't the prime version of Nate Thurmond at all. Good player, though. And the Warriors got to the finals. They got beat by Boston in 6, whatever. He gets traded in the middle of the 65 season to Philly, a trade that he forced. So that does matter. From 65 to 68, he had Hal Greer, a top 75 player, 10 All-Star, 7 All-NBAs. Another guy who was a borderline Hall of Famer. He's in there as a contributor. But Larry Costello, I think he only played in 65, was a 6-time All-Star, 2-time free throw champ, twice first-team All-NBA. He was on that 65 team along with Chet Walker. Chet Walker's in the Hall of Fame, a 7-time All-Star, career 18.2 points per game, 7.1 rebounds. He also had Billy Cunningham from 66 to 68. Billy Cunningham's a top 75 player. With Wilt, he averaged 17.2 points a game, 7.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. He won the 1973 MVP. I know that was, 5-6 years later, but still, you got an MVP on your team. From 69 to 73, obviously Jerry West was there the whole time. He's a Hall of Famer, top 75, with or without Wilt. The number 13 player on my list, also Elgin Baylor, he played with him for basically 2 years. He's number 23 on my list. Gail Goodrich is a Hall of Famer. The 5 years he played with Wilt, he averaged 22.6 to 25.9 points per game. Good player, 5-time All-Star. Other serviceable good players, not Hall of Famers, Happy Hairston, Jim McMillan, Flynn Robinson, all were on that historic 72 team. Now, Wilt does have 2 of the best 5 regular seasons of all time. The 72 Lakers, who are 69-13, and the 67 Philadelphia 76ers were 68-13. 2 of the top 5. Now, Wilt blew leads of 3-1 in the 68 East Finals, up 2-0 in the 69 Finals with clearly the better team, but lost. He lost 5 times with home court advantage, which is kind of high. He scored less in the playoffs than he did in the regular season, all 13 times. He's got a .641 regular season winning percentage, which is good, .550 in the playoffs, which isn't great, .509 in the conference finals and finals combined, and a .444 winning percentage in the finals, a losing record. So what can you say? His longevity was, pretty good. He played 14 years. 1 year he missed 60 or 70 games. I think that was 1970. So his durability, his longevity was fine. His 5-year peak was maybe the best ever. His 10-year peak, he won 7 scoring titles, 8 rebound titles, and 4 MVPs, and 1 championship. He was great on both ends. Both ends he was great. With the series tied 2-2, Wilt Chamberlain is only 2-5 ever. To me, that was very low. His leadership, mental fortitude wasn't great. He did make the playoffs in 13 of his 14 years. Wilt's a pretty simple one. He was an unbelievably awesome individual player, probably the best of all time. But when it came to the team stuff, even with high-quality teammates, he just didn't do enough. He'd always go up against a team that would beat him, and you can say, oh, the other team had a Hall of Famers, da-da-da-da. Well, if he would have won, some of these other guys would have gotten the Hall of Fame as well. And he did lose some close games, but he lost nonetheless. He has 2 championships with a guy of his talent. It's not acceptable when he played with top 75 players every year of his career, at least one. I mean, what can you say? I think, no, that's not true. 1963, the 1 year he didn't have a top 75 player, he didn't make the playoffs. He was 31-49, and he played the whole season. So I'm just saying, Wilt needed teammates, no doubt about it. So he's number 7. That's how it is. Number 6, Larry Bird. I wanted Bird in the top 5 so bad, you have no idea. My favorite player growing up. I love Larry Bird. You don't need to say a word to me about it. Larry Bird is number 6. I always had Wilt at like number 9 or maybe even 10. I didn't have him as 7, but his individual stuff was just too incredible. He scored too high on that. Now Larry Bird won 3 of 8 legitimate shots at a championship. Some things I wanted to get into about Larry Bird. His conference was tough, yes, but his division really only ever had one good team, and that was usually Philly. Philly in 1980 won 59 games. In 81 they won 62 games. The Knicks actually in 81 won 50 games. In 82 Philly won 58. In 83 Philly won 65 games. In 84 Philly won 52. In 85 Philly won 58. In 86 Philly won 54. In 87 there was no 50-win teams. In 88 no 50-win teams. I skipped 89 because Bird only played 6 games. Didn't even count that at all. 1990 Philly won 53 games. 91 no 50-win teams. And 92 the Knicks 51 and 31. So as you can see, there was always one other 51 team except for 81 had 2. But there was even a few years where there was none. But most time it was just one team, usually Philly. Now the conference as a whole with Milwaukee, later on with Detroit, way later on with Chicago. Yes, there was good teams always. Atlanta was good many years. Tough conference, no doubt about it. The Cavs were tough in the late 80s into the early 90s, no question. But Larry Bird, in the playoffs, when he played a team under 45 wins, he was 11-0, made short work of them. Hold up. All right, so yeah, Larry Bird made short work of the teams that were not very good. Teams that won between 45 and 49 games, he was 3-1. Teams that won 50 to 54 games, 7-3. So if you add all that up, teams that won up to 54 games in the playoffs, he was 21-4 against those teams. Just crushed them all. But teams that won 55 or more games, he was 3-5. And to me, that's mediocre. He beat the 81 Philly, who was 62-20, 85 Philly, who was 58-24, and the 86 Bucks, 57-25. That's it. The 3 finals wins Boston had, a little underwhelming as far as the record of the teams. 81 Houston was 40-42. The 86 Rockets was 51-31. And the 84 Lakers was 54-28. That was his 3 finals wins. Now, how did he do when the games were on the line? Game 7s, he did well. For the most part, he had a couple shoddy games, but like 81 Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7, he goes 8 for 17, 23 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals, 2 blocks, 6 for 7 from the line. They win that game. 82 Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7. He goes 7 for 18, which, 20 points, but he gets 11 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. They lose that game. 84 Finals, Game 7 against the Lakers. He doesn't have a very good game as far as shooting. 6 for 18, 20 points, but he gets 12 rebounds, and he's 8 for 8 from the line. But he was only the 3rd leading scorer on his team because Dennis Johnson and I think it was Cedric Maxwell did good winning that series and the finals, giving him his 2nd championship. The 87 Eastern Conference Finals against, or semifinals, this was against Detroit. Right? I think that's right. 87 Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7. He was 13 for 24, 37 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, 10 for 10 from the line, and they won that game. Now the 88 Eastern Conference Semifinals, Game 7, very interesting. He goes 15 for 24, 34 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 for 3 from the line. In that same, they won, but in that same game, Dominique Wilkins, the other small forward, 47 points on 19 of 33 shooting, 8 of 9 from the line. Had an even better game than Bird did. Larry Bird won 3 MVPs, 8 straight top 3s in MVPs. He 3 times was named all defense 2nd team, 4-time free throw percentage champion. That's the only thing he ever led the league in. 6 times he shot 3-pointers 40% or better. Longevity was so-so. His durability was just fine up till 89 when he got hurt, and then after that he was kind of a shell. Even though 1990 was kind of a renaissance year for him, look at his stats, they're really good. But he did seem to make most players better. He did play with 2 other top 75 players essentially his whole career, and he had Dennis Johnson from 84 to 88, another Hall of Famer, perennial all-defender, finals MVP, all that. He lost with home court 7 times. That was just too many to overlook. That hurt him. He lost 5 times when he had a lead in a series. That's kind of high. He made the playoffs 100% of the time, though. That helped him. But again, he had, quality teams. His career scoring is 24.3, 10 rebound, 6.3 assists, 88.6 free throw shooter. The playoffs, 23.8 points, so he loses half a point, 10.3 rebounds, so he gains 1/3 of a rebound, 6.5 assists, he's marginally better there, and marginally better at 89% free throw shooter. He was 725 in the regular season, averaging 59.4 wins, and in the playoffs he had a 61.8% winning percentage. Really good. I'd love to put Bird higher. I really do. He's my favorite. I wanted him up there in the top 3 or 4, but he's at number 6, and that's just how it is. That's where he landed. Now, number 5. This one probably going to get some pushback on, but it is what it is. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, number 5. Now, Kareem had 13 shots at a title. He won 6, less than half. Again, not a great percentage. Just like Bird, just like Wilt. Kareem was won 6 MVPs. He had 15 top 5 in MVP. But when you take into consideration what was going on in the ABA and all the good players there, one of his MVPs was on a 42-40 team. He never should have got that. The 72 Lakers, the historic 72 Lakers, should have had the MVP. It should have been Jerry West. Wilt Chamberlain actually finished third, is what hurt West. But I think Kareem only should have won 4. Now, let's get into his competition, because this is what really drug Kareem down. His only winning 6 out of 13, that was definitely kind of a negative. His accolades are great. I'll finish the accolades. He had 2 scoring titles, 1 rebound title, 4 block titles, but that was in the much lesser 70s competition. Once the merger happened, he didn't get any of that. Now, he when it comes to his competition, kind of like Bird, and teams that won under 45 games, he was 15-1, shellacking them. When it came to teams that won 50 to 54 games, 6-2, really good. Even teams 55 to 59, 6-1. But teams with 60 or more wins, 1-5. That wasn't great. Now, when he was on Milwaukee, he was 0-3 against teams that won 55 or more games, 7-1 against teams under 55 games. Before Magic came along, he was 9-4 against teams under 55 wins and 0-3 against teams with 55 or more. Now, 1985, they won by beating the 36-win Phoenix Suns, the 42-win Portland Trailblazers, 52-win Denver Nuggets. That was their road to the championship. In 1987, they got to the finals and won by beating 37-win Denver, 42-win Golden State, 39-win Seattle. Not very good. So of the, he won 37 of his 49 series, but 1/3 of those were against teams with 44 wins or less. So 16 of the games he played was series was against teams that had 44 or less wins. He missed the playoff twice, had a Hall of Famer each year in 75 and 76. When it came to Hall of Fame teammates, only one time, and that was in 77, did he have no Hall of Fame teammates. He had 1 Hall of Fame teammate 3 times, 2 Hall of Fame teammates 5 times, 3 Hall of Fame teammates 7 times, and 4 Hall of Fame teammates 4 times. So he had tons of help. The 1974 finals, Game 7 in Milwaukee, he lost at home. I got outplayed by Dave Cowens. He was 5-4 in deciding games, which is just okay. 1988 Western Conference Finals, he goes 4 for 10, 11 points. The 88 Finals, Game 7, even though they won, 2 for 7, 4 points. Not great. In 1984 Game 7, he had a good game. 12 for 22, 29 points, 6 rebounds. That was really good. 1983, the deciding game, they lost to, they won. That was the best of 3 one. Actually, I think that's an 81. 32 points, 11 for 23, and 18 rebounds. That was 81 against Houston. I wrote it down, I'm sorry. He lost 5 times with home court advantage, 4 times with a lead. He got swept twice in the finals, which that's not very good. Got swept in the Western Conference Finals once against Portland. He was 7-4 with the series tied 2-2, which, it's not bad. It's okay. His longevity and durability is what really carried him. But again, his competition overall was fairly weak, especially in his conference. In his 19 years that he had an actual division, because the first year in 1970, it was just a conference. In his 19 years, only 14 50-win teams in his division. That's horrible. That's terrible. 50-win teams in the whole conference, there was only 30 in 20 years. That's terrible. That's 1.5 per year in his conference. That's a gravy train. What can you say? There was only 3 60-win teams in his conference in his entire career, and I'm pretty sure that was the 72 Lakers, it was the 1970 Knicks, because he was in the East at that time. I'm trying to think who the other one was, but I'm pretty sure it happened. I think it might have been the Lakers won 60 games also in like 73. But anyway, it all happened right in the beginning. Never again. He went like 16 years, never to see a 60-win team in his conference again. Very weak. So it comes down to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had an incredible long career. He won MVPs, he won championships, but he gravy trained many of those championships, and a couple of those MVPs he probably shouldn't have gotten. But his resume was still very strong. His competition was pretty weak. I think it was the third weakest on the list. Overall competition, I think, was third weakest on the entire list. His durability was very good. He gets high points for that. He was a good two-way player. I believe he got, 8 or maybe it was 12 all defenses. He had a lot of all defenses. But again, a lot of this happened with the ABA. So Kareem was a hard guy to gauge. If the ABA was there the whole time, how well would he have done? And one thing I've realized is these big guys like Kareem and Wilt and Duncan and Olajuwon and Shaq, they absolutely need a quality guard or wing player to be successful. It is necessity for them to do that. But anyway, he played with a plethora of great players. He had Oscar Robertson and Bob Dandridge when he was on Milwaukee. He had Gail Goodrich in the beginning with the Lakers. Then he had, in 78, 79, he had Jawal Wilkes. He had Adrian Dantley. Norm Nixon would have been a Hall of Famer had he not get hurt. Look up that guy's career. He definitely would have been a Hall of Famer if he didn't get hurt. And then, of course, when he got Magic Johnson, and then he got in Michael Cooper and James Worthy, Byron Scott. He might not be a Hall of Famer, but I mean, this team was just loaded with talent. I actually thought they should have won more. And to have 13 shots at a title, he did win 6 out of 10 finals, but there was 3 other times he was the number 1 seed and did not win the championship, didn't even reach the finals. Like in 77, he got upset in, I believe it was 73, he got upset by Golden State. They were a 63-win team. They got beat by like a 48-win team, or maybe they were a 60-win team. I don't know. So many numbers running through my head right now. It's crazy, but anyway, this is what it is. I got Wilt at number 7. I got Larry Bird at number 6, and I got Kareem at number 5. And that's actually, it was 1973. Milwaukee was 60-22, and they lost to a 47-win Golden State team in 6 games. And Golden State, of course, lost the next series in 5 to the Lakers. But anyway, that's it, and glad this is almost over. So Wilt 7, Bird 6, Kareem 5, and that's where it landed. So anyway, that's it. I know it's a longer video, but thanks for hanging in there, and hopefully I have another one today. Thanks for watching.